Well, welcome back to the Big Jake podcast. Excited to have you here. It's been a little while. I didn't get a chance to record a podcast in the last about month, so it's been a bit. This is episode number 12. Here we are in the middle of July of 2023. Got some pretty exciting things that happened. Got a couple of cool things coming up. A lot of things obviously have happened in the last month. I'm not going to dwell on them. I'm going to mention a few of them real quick and then just kind of move on. So I was able to host for 4 shows with Tim Meadows. Great guy, super funny, good dude. I also hosted at the Caravan for Bill Barranque. That was a lot of fun. I was called in last minute to feature at the Louisville Comedy Club for Kevin White. So Chris Redd was supposed to, from SNL, he was supposed to come. He canceled. Kevin White got called up to be the headliner, and I was able to feature for him all weekend, which was a good time. I had a show that I put on at Planet of the Tapes. So it was a clean show. I closed it out, had a few local comedians do some time. They did a really good job. I was proud of the whole show. Sometimes you do a show and you're like, yeesh, I'm glad, you know, you feel bad charging. But this show was actually free, but I would have been absolutely fine charging because I thought they did a great job. But what I really want to talk about is what happened just in the last couple of days. So Thursday, it's Sunday today, so 3 days ago or whatever, I was able to headline at the Louisville Comedy Club. Louisville Comedy Club is an A-list club. It's a very cool place. It has a lot of, really good comedians, and it draws just as its own club. It's starting to kind of forge its own identity. Anyway, I was able to headline on a Thursday night. Now, Thursdays are hard to get people out. I tried real hard. I got a decent crowd. I think there was probably about 80 or so in the audience. And 80 in that room feels good, but it doesn't feel full. There's a lot of empty space, but still it feels good. I did 51 minutes. I had my friend Alex Wittenberg host. James Ferguson, he did a guest spot. James is a mailman, and he didn't have time to change, so he was still dressed like a mailman while he's on stage, which is always fun. And then I had Zach Wycuff as the feature, and I was able to headline. So it was good. Turned out real well. Had people from church, people from my old church, had seminary people, but most of the crowd, the large amount of the crowd, I had never met. So either my marketing was able to get them in, or Alex was able to get people to come. But it ended up being a really good night. And it was one of these nights where you walk away like, man, if I could do this more often, a lot more headlining gigs, I'd be down for it. The next day, on Friday and Saturday, so just a couple days ago, I was scheduled to feature at Crackers in Indianapolis. So it's about a 2-hour drive, and I featured there before. It's always a good time. I was, getting ready to go up there, and the owner called me and said, "Hey, Jake, instead of featuring this weekend, we want you to headline." I was thinking, great. I got up there on Friday night. So this is a Friday night, downtown, comedy club. Comedy club that's been there for years. Well-established comedy club. I'm headlining. There is in the audience one guy. So when I walked in the club and I saw the one guy, I got there a little early. I walked in and saw the one guy. I'm like, yeesh, we're going to have a small crowd. I thought more people would join him. They did not. Then I thought, okay, I just drove up here for nothing. I drove up here 2 hours and we're just going to have to call the show and go home. Because, you wouldn't do a show for one person. That's exactly what they did. They said, hey, we only got the one guy. We're going to do it anyway. He was in his seat early, so we started the show 15, 20 minutes early. We all did somewhat abbreviated sets. So for me, instead of doing 30, 40 minutes, I did 25. For one guy. At that point in my life, I've had small shows. I've done shows with 3 people in the audience with 4 comedians. So the comedians outnumbered the audience members. This is the first time I had only one person in the audience. Okay, that's real weird. I mean, what's even the etiquette? What do you do when the server needs to talk to him? Does you just pause? I mean, you're 100% of your audience is distracted. Do you keep telling that joke? What? It was a weird one, but we soldiered on. We got to it, and at the very least, it was over. I kept thinking, if you had told me, hey Jake, you're going to headline on Thursday and Friday, and you're going to average about 40 people per show, I would say, that's great. Oh my goodness, that's a great weekend. But if 80 of them are on Thursday and 1 is on Friday, that's a weird weekend. Now, I came back to Louisville Friday night. Saturday, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, am I going to have to go through this whole thing again? But I hadn't gotten paid. So, at the very least, they're going to pay me something, I'm sure. I get up there on Saturday. 2 people. Hey, it's double the show the day before. 2 people in the showroom. A little while goes by and they seat 2 more people. So that when the show starts, there's 4 people in the audience. But 2 of them are sitting really far in the back, like in the shadows. Like, this is going to be another one of these. Now, these people are super nice. They recognize that it's a smaller night, and they get up and they move closer into the light so that the comedians could actually see them. Very nice. And then 6 more people get set. So we get 10 total people. Well, 10 people compared to 1 feels gigantic. So I was able to do that last night. I checked the tape. I was on stage 38 minutes and did a good time. Definitely had a good time. I was definitely for it. I got some fun shows coming up on Tuesday. So just a couple days, I'm going to participate in the Funniest Person in Cincinnati contest. It's at Go Bananas. And, we'll see. Contests are always goofy. I'm never a big fan of it. But during the summer months, Go Bananas basically doesn't have any pro-am. That's what they call their open mic, the pro-am. And so the only way to get on that stage is through this contest. And if you do well, you'll probably get a little bit of work here or there. So, we'll see. if nothing else, Cincinnati's not that far away, and going there on a Tuesday, not that hard. Not really much going on in town, so. Then on Thursday or Friday, I forget which one, I'm going to go to Detroit for World Series of Comedy. Never a huge fan of this. We'll see. But I keep telling myself this is the last year I do World Series of Comedy. So we'll see if that's truth. But I've never performed in Detroit, so I'm excited to perform in Detroit. And then on Saturday, I'm going to do a couple of shows in town with Don't Tell, which are always good shows. And then at the end of the month, I'm going to go back to Denver and do a show at a church, which should be a good time. As far as like other creative pursuits, I have begun writing a choose your own adventure story. Now, I think the phrase choose your own adventure is copyrighted. So I'll need to figure out a way to say choose your own adventure without using those words. So decide your fate or pick a path or something like that. And I've been enjoying it. It's hard. It's also pretty fun. So I'd like to do a little bit more of it. I've made a wager with myself that I need to finish it. And if I don't, then there are some negative consequences. Basically, in my world, negative consequences means I have to get rid of books. And positive consequences are, for this one, is I was going to maybe buy a pair of Jordans. Which I never owned Jordans. Seem pretty fun. I'm not really a sneaker guy, but when I did the weekend with Kevin White, one of the other guys on the show, he was the sneaker dude, and he was telling me about it. I was like, I need to get some sneakers. I need to get some cool sneakers. I think that'd be fun. I mean, if you got a really nice pair of sneakers and you only wear them on stage, how long would they last? I mean, it feels like they would last forever. I don't know. But there you go. I'll tell you a story. This is unfortunately true. When my family moved from the St. Louis area to the Denver area, we changed schools, obviously, and the new school had school lunches. So the school that I was at between, kindergarten and third grade, we had to bring a lunch. But this new school had school lunches. And what parents would do is buy like a little paper card that was like lunch credit. And then the kid got to choose what they wanted for lunch, and they would punch the card. Something like that. Okay. So I show up first day, fourth grade. I've got this paper card that I have to figure out how to get lunch with. I go through the lunch line, and I'm kind of chatting with the other kids, like, what do you even get? And they say, oh, what you're gonna want is a Frito pie. What? Frito pie? I know what Fritos are. I know what pie is. I'm a big fan of pie. I could take or leave Fritos. What in the world is a Frito pie? Well, a Frito pie is a styrofoam plate covered in Fritos. So the corn chips, a little, I always thought they looked like commas. Like little commas. Anyway, Fritos, corn chips, covered this styrofoam plate. And then chili and cheese on top of it. That's your Frito pie. So I ordered it. In fourth grade, I got a Frito pie. And then I got it every day for like the next 3 years. And people say, hey, Jake, why are you so big? It might have something to do with the Frito pies. I was raised on a strict diet of Frito pies. I don't remember ever having anything else when I was at that school in elementary school. Bizarre to think, and it's weird. You know, when you're having lunch, it's not that weird to have the same thing for lunch every single day. That's boring when it comes to dinner, but for lunch, you're like, yeah, I can have the same thing. I'm pretty sure I did for years no breakfast. I don't know why. My family just didn't eat breakfast. No breakfast, Frito pie for lunch, hamburger helper for dinner. That's how you grow and develop. What a ridiculous thing. So, when people are talking about like nutritious meals in school, I'm thinking about Frito pies, man. That was mine. That was my meals. As far as reading goes, I have been reading, even though I haven't been doing podcasts. I have been reading. I checked the numbers as of today. I'm at 73 books read for the year. So we're here in the middle of July, and 73 books. My stated goal is 100. My little private secret goal is 200. But 100 seems very doable. Very, very doable. I mean, I'm at 73 right now. But 200 does seem like a little bit of a stretch, which is good. I have been reading, I think in the last week, I think I did 3 James Patterson books. So I did Along Came a Spider a few months ago, which is an interesting book, and I liked it. But then I didn't really follow up. Then I found from the library James Patterson on James Patterson. I don't know, like him talking about himself, a memoir of sorts, an autobiography. It's not really autobiographical. It's not super deep. It's not even very long, but I did like it. At the same time, I liked it. Here's one piece of trivia: is he was an ad executive for a long time, and people know that. But the trivia I think is interesting is he came up with the phrase, "I'm a Toys R Us kid," because it's weird to hear that, because I always considered myself a Toys R Us kid. I really love. Oh my goodness, Toys R Us! Remember Toys R Us? They had the little shopping carts, so that you could have a shopping cart of your own size. Now I would still get the big one because I was huge, but normal sized kids could get little bitty shopping carts and fill a shopping cart with toys. That blows my mind. One of my favorite birthdays. I don't remember what I got for a lot of birthdays when I was growing up. Now, my parents were good with gifts. I'm not saying anything like that, but I do remember one birthday. I must have been 9, maybe 8, something like that. They took me to Toys R Us, and they gave me a $100 bill. And it was just one piece of paper, just the one $100 bill. And I'm like, this is the most money I have ever held, ever conceived of. What is happening? And I bought Legos. So, it's all good. But I've been reading James Patterson. I finished, he's got a book called iFunny, which is a middle school kid in a wheelchair who is obsessed with stand-up comedy. And it's written for like juvenile audience. It's got a lot of pictures in it. I didn't realize that when I started, but it does have a lot of pictures. I enjoyed it. Didn't love it. I mean, it's obviously it's not written for me, but I thought it was decent. It is interesting to look at. Here's what an author thinks a career in stand-up comedy would look like. Interesting, at least. And I have enjoyed the James Patterson books. I've gotten into. As far as diet, oh my goodness, your boy is not doing great. I had a couple of real strong days last week with, making healthy foods, but oh my goodness, I am struggling with motivation and energy, and I don't know what it is. And so I always tell myself, let's fast today, and then 7-8 o'clock rolls around and I'm like, oh, I'm so hungry. And if I can't immediately fall asleep, then it's like, what are we going to do now? So today I fasted for several hours and then got Little Caesars. So it's been a good day. At the very least, it's a good day. As far as my act is going, I've been doing this one bit. I'm not sure if I've mentioned it on the podcast. It's about Russian nesting dolls. Really works basically every time. I feel like I've gotten the timing down, and I'm into it. I think it's a good bit. Yeah, I'm into it. I am, workshopping some other bits. I need to get on stage. Need to do some open mics this week. Just because I've been booked. This is one of those like, oh, that's a good problem to have. But I've been booked too much to do a lot of open mics, which means I'm not really working on my act. So I'm not really adding a whole lot. I feel like I can do a solid 40 minutes, no crowd work, maybe 45 minutes, no crowd work. I think I can do a solid hour with crowd work. I feel like my crowd work is really pretty strong, and I think that's maybe becoming the strongest aspect of my performance. But I'm also not getting new material as much as I'd like. Such is life. But there you go. The one thing that I do want to work on, or at least I'm curious about exploring, is because of this. So a buddy of mine came into town, and we were chatting about Abby and Brittany Hensel, who had a TLC show a few years ago. It's two people. They are conjoined twins, and the best way to describe what they look like would be one person with two heads. So they have two arms, two legs, but also two heads. And I believe that they are teachers. So the idea of, me being a teacher for many years, and so knowing what being in the classroom is like, and thinking about like, how much more convenient would it be if I also had another head? It seems like that would be easier. I don't know. There's a lot there. There's a lot to explore. I don't want to make fun of these women, but it's a little interesting. I mean, they had a TLC show. There's a reason why I know what their names are. So I don't want to make fun, but at the same time, I do want to like I think it's an interesting idea. Anyway, that's all I've got for you this week. Hopefully, the break between this one and the next one will not be as dramatic. But in the meantime, take care.